So they're skinny.
Yeah, so you look at their bellies, they're actually they're very beautiful fish, but they're quite skinny. So you really want to be feeding them more.
I'll feed them once or twice a week.
Yeah, so you need to do it more. So,
yeah? I got told, no, you shouldn't.
So, but what matters is looking at the fish. So when we look at the fish, we want to see a little bit of a belly on them.
Yeah.
But these ones are a bit emaciated. So what I normally do when I'm feeding is I feed them about what they eat in 30 seconds, about 5 times a week, so that's not every day. Yeah. And then over time, I just look at their bellies, and then if they've got a nice little belly, and you can text us some photos and we can tell you if the belly's nice. And then I slowly increase or decrease the amount until you get, so they all look good. So I mean, this guy looks fine.
Yeah, he eats a lot.
But it can also be that different foods suit different fish more than others. And so the question is how much to feed, which is enough to keep their bellies big but not too fat. And then the next thing is what to feed. So I'm very biased to fish food because most fish food is pressure cooked processed crap, but there's also some really good foods available. So if these were my fish, the food that I'd be feeding them is mainly Spectrum's probiotics. Yeah, so Spectrum's probiotics, number one is it's a cold extruded food, so it's not pressure cooked and processed. It's also actually fish food. Whereas if you look at most fish foods and you look at the ingredients, actually none of it's fish food. Fish meal, that's just byproducts. Then you've got yeast, you've got rice, you've got shrimp meal, that's just byproduct. Then you've got...
This is what I normally feed them.
Okay, so...
That's Iron Angel fish.
But most food is not actually fish food. Most food is just terrestrial nutrients, chemicals, and byproducts. Install the tank, it's really, really important that we make sure the tank's level over it, otherwise it can shorten the life of the tank. Now these filters are super cheap to buy, but they're so hard to clean that I'd rather pay more and just get one that's easy to clean, and this one I'd rather just throw it in the bin. Because if it's hard to do, you never do it. You actually dread it. I dread these ones. Moving an aquarium, putting some timber under the aquarium when you move it definitely makes it much easier and much easier to grip. So for future reference, just cutting out a piece of timber to put under the tank, especially when we're carrying it downstairs, definitely better and safer. You really want your frame of your aquarium out of solid timber, because if you're using this sort of composite or MDF material, a lot of it, some of it's better quality than others, but you just want to make sure you use something that when it gets wet it doesn't bloat. Some of these timbers bloat massively. And then this one also had a leg in the middle that just came out. It wasn't attached in any way, shape or form. So that's a little bit scary. It'd be sort of nice to secure it in there. Get down your turkey. Bush turkey's in a tree. There you go. Want to walk under there, these things would shit all over you. We're just installing an aquarium at the moment. And we're definitely a little bit concerned because there's not, once again, once we apply the water, the dead weight is absolutely massive, but there's not really much structurally that's sort of stopping it from going left or right. So all there basically is a panel on the back with some screws in it. So if this was mine, I reckon whether someone could put like some little framing or something just to strengthen it up. How are you? Hey buddy, how are you mate? Hey buddy, hey, how are you? You good? If you do know your aquarium is getting moved, it's really worth cleaning the filter first, because when the filter's this bad, it's really not ideal for the filter to need cleaning at the same time as you're moving it. Very, very dirty. And these filters are very hard to clean. That's why they never get cleaned. If this was mine, I'd throw it in the bin and I'd get an Aqua L 4500. It's an easy filter to clean. Costs you a little bit of money, but it's really worth it in the long run. So a lot of the medias in the filter are upside down, so I've given the filter a clean and put it up the right way. Canisters really want to clean them about once a month. And when you clean them, you want to clean them in water from the fish tank. Also inside the top of the unit is an impeller. Make sure you give that a clean every now and then. So now I'm going to put some pre-filter material in the top.
You mean turf these waters?
And in about a month, you want to replace that and clean it, preferably with polyfilter. Polyfilter is much better than filter wool. Even add some activated carbon temporarily would be a good idea too. So what we're doing at the moment is just installing this aquarium. I'm just priming up the filter. So this is all water that we've taken. So the fish are doing very well. So the fish are very thin. I definitely want the fish fed more. And the food that I would want to feed these fish is Spectrum's Probiotics and Danichi Colour and Spectrum's Wafer. They are the three foods that I would want to feed these fish, and I would want to get them fattened up because they're very thin. What we're now doing is filling the aquarium, and we're keeping an eye on the temperature and on the rabbit. So we're watching this thermometer keeps falling off the glass, but we're trying to keep it at 25 degrees. So we've got some water going in. We're regularly treating it with prime to make sure we're not getting chlorine in the water. And then we're watching the temperature, and then we're putting a bucket of hot water in if the temperature falls below 25 degrees. Okay, so looking here, we've got a light that apparently doesn't work. I've added a little bit of salt, there's none left. Now, as long as this is okay, because Big Bulk Pristine, this is an excellent product, but I don't know how old it is. So what this does, if you add this regularly, it helps to break down all your solid waste. That's an excellent product. Now, here's some colour food. If you add a little bit of this to diet, it's okay, but do not make this a major part of the diet. Now, we've got some stability. This is an excellent product. I'm just going to add that now. Buy second-hand stuff. You need to be careful of this sort of business because this stuff doesn't pass Australian standards, which means if it catches fire, you'd have huge insurance problems. These are some of the disadvantages about buying second-hand stuff. Now, I really want these fish fed on Danichi and New Life Spectrum. So I don't know what this is. This could be some bulk cheap food. I'm not sure. Now we've got some Safe. This is an excellent product. This is a very strong concentrated water ager. Excellent stuff. It's probably very old though because it hasn't cost $25 in many, many years. So that could be very old. Now we've got some Stress Coat. It's a good product. That one and that one are a similar product. You don't need to add them both together, but both of them can be used for water changes. Now that's an empty one for some reason. Okay, now you've got some Neutral Regulator. We can use that also as a water ager, but I probably wouldn't be using this product at all with these fish. And that looks like an old St. George Aquarium's price tag, which means this product is probably very, very old. You're probably not going to use it anymore. Hey, you're going to bite me, you little bastard. Oh, yeah, he just came up and bit me. Just because you're cute doesn't mean you can bite people. Now we've got another empty bottle for some reason. Test kits in here, but I'd be pretty cautious of them because they look very old. Okay, so for this aquarium, I would be wanting regular water tests. So preferably if you've got a local aquarium shop you can take it to make sure that the water's okay, because we need to check on the pH. Looking at the quality of these fish, it's probably likely your pH is very acid. Now, these fish need alkaline water because you've got some alkaline water fish in here. They like very hard water. The water change today would have definitely helped the pH, but the things we've got to look after is the pH and KH. Then we need to look after the GH, which is your GH salts. Then your fish are going to produce ammonia. The ammonia is going to break down by bacteria that grows in a filter. That's why the filter must never be cleaned in tap water. It must only be cleaned in water from the aquarium. And then the ammonia will break down into nitrite. And then the nitrate will break down into nitrate. Nitrite will break down into nitrate. And then your nitrate and phosphate levels are going to be a determining factor for water changes. And your ammonia and nitrite is governed by your filter. So now this aquarium has got a power head here. That's one of the best things it will have. And that's job is to agitate the surface and create plenty of water flow. And we've got a heater here, and the suction caps on the heater don't really work. So I'd be very worried about not having a heater guard for this heater, because if those big fish smash into the heater, they could actually break it, which wouldn't be ideal. So big fish and heaters in the tank are always a risk. So where possible, if you can have a heater in line, when you've got big fish, it's definitely a good idea. And then we want to be once a month doing a gravel clean and removing about a quarter of the water. When we return the water, we've got to put water ager in it, your prime. And then we need to keep an eye on our GH, KH and pH. And right now these fish need a lot of love because they're very beautiful fish, but they definitely have not been getting looked after. They're very emaciated. These doors are very challenging to shut just due to this raised carpet here. Now these very tall aquariums look really, really good, but particularly if they're someone else's. Because an aquarium this tall is actually very hard to look after. You want to make sure you've got a good ladder or something handy, because reaching up there I'm very tall and this is a very high tank for me. It was a very heavy tank. It's also really important that you don't slam these doors too hard because that was already like that. So there's a little bit of a scallop there, which isn't the end of the world, but that would probably be from slamming these doors too hard. Once again, that was already there. We did not do that, and that's a disadvantage with second-hand tanks. They can be good deals though. Plugged in the power head, it didn't work. And I sort of gave it a bit of a whack and then it worked. It was a little bit noisy though, so hopefully that calms down. But that noise pisses me off. I love that rabbit. What do you think, mate? What do you think of your tank? We're all done. We don't want the light on when you're not watching the fish. Let's say maximum of 8 hours a day. So the tank move went very well. Fish are very good. Now I'd love to get a water test and a procedure for looking after and feeding the fish properly. Today was a big success. Big success. One thing that I do recommend that everyone does, if you're starting out with an aquarium, it's really worth watching one of my DVDs. So back in around 1997 or something like that, I released a VHS video series on how to look after aquariums. Then around year 2000, 2002 or something like that, I released a DVD series which would actually teach you how to look after your aquarium. So we used to sell heaps of DVDs back before the GFC and back before the days of YouTube. But now you can watch them all free on YouTube. So regardless of what sort of fish you want to keep, there's your instructional first aquarium and pond guide that you can have a watch of. So by me, Paul Talbot. Then there's your instructional tropical aquarium guide. There's your instructional cichlid aquarium guide. And there's your instructional marine aquarium guide. And there's also your instructional reef aquarium guide. There's also the Red Sea DVD, which is really worth watching, the Red Sea Max DVD. So there's a whole series of DVDs plus seminar series that you can watch. And you can watch them on Majestic Aquariums TV and on various other channels as well. So if you do get an aquarium and you want a fairly holistic understanding of the aquarium, it's really worth watching one of those DVDs. So if you go onto YouTube and just write your instructional tropical aquarium guide by Paul Talbot, for example, and you'll find that. And it goes for about an hour. It basically covers everything you need to know. And it's a really easy start, middle, and end education. And it focuses a lot more on why you do things as opposed to how to do it. Because a lot of customers find they'll go to this shop and they're told you do this like that. They go to another shop and they say, no, do it like this. But ultimately, I believe that if you understand why you're doing it, then it's up to you to figure out how you do it.